So here's a bench press form review. I'm doing some warm-up sets. If you notice that my elbows go a little bit below my shoulders, and what I'm doing is I'm benching into what is commonly known as the bench press groove. Everyone's bench press groove is a little different, but they all look similar, and that's the elbows are slightly in and down while your shoulder blades are back and down as well. Here's 155. And one thing that you'll notice is I'm just trying to maintain the same position. What's really important is keeping the forearms vertical throughout the entire motion. That's where you get the most efficiency in force production, and you'll get better force production. Another common thing that people have a tendency to forget is activating their legs and quads tight enough and maintaining their tightness. That's planting your feet, squeezing your butt, and tightening your abs. Because usually some people remember to tighten their abs, but they forget to plant their feet really good and squeeze their glutes. That way their core can be super, super tight and be ready for heavier loads. One of the things is being able to keep a good solid shoulder position. Now, to keep a good solid shoulder position, you have to be able to sort of bend the bar. If you've heard this analogy, what you're trying to do is if you imagine your right hand, imagine your right hand turning clockwise and your left hand turning counterclockwise. And what they're doing is they're bending the bar as you lower the weight. And what that's doing is allowing for you to keep your shoulder blades and the humeral head, the upper arm, nice and screwed into your shoulder, super, super tight. So that way when you lower the bar, you maintain a really solid position. So that the head of the upper arm or the head of the humerus stays really solid and contracted with the rotator cuff. Here's 225. I lift this and it feels fairly light. So I decided that I'm going to max out for this day. I haven't maxed out in a little while. It's been probably about over a month. And when I max out, because I'm not really, I have a tendency to want to do powerlifting type stuff, but I'm not really a power lifter, but I get great satisfaction after overlifting more weight. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting myself warmed up for it. And what I like to do when I max out is I like to do a few sets or a few reps of singles and doubles. So I do ones and twos and maybe sometimes some triples, but usually triples wear me out when I'm trying to do a 1 or 2 rep max. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get my joints and my nervous system accustomed to the heavier loads. So I skipped from 245 to 275. I haven't actually lifted 275. I've hit 265 before. So I said, go ahead, F it, why not? Let's give it a try. And I get a spotter. When I typically don't spot, I get a spotter when I'm lifting because I don't really lift super, super heavy and my form is really, really good. And I seldom go to failure. I usually go 1 to 2 reps from failure for the simple reason that I like to make sure that my shoulder blades stay tight. When you let your shoulder blades move around too much, that causes a lot of shoulder problems over time. Now when you're young, you can kind of get away with a lot of this stuff. But I'm having some AC problems, or that's where the clavicle meets the shoulder blade, and that's kind of giving me some light pain. It's not a big deal because it doesn't really bother me a whole lot, but when I touch it, it's kind of tender to the touch. As I talk in this video and give commentary on my bench press, it actually it feels tender, but it's not intolerable, but I do know that's a looming problem if I try to push myself. And by no means am I old, but in weightlifting terms for like high level performance, I'm approaching old age. I'm going to be 32. But when you're trying to reach max, your testosterone begins to drop and you just are not strong and you don't recover as well when you kind of hit in the early 30s. But everyone's a little different, it all depends on your body. But when we talk about high level performance, you have to remember that it takes a long time to recover as you get older, and you just have to realize that, if you have a day job and you don't lift weights for a living, it's probably not a good idea to take unnecessary risks when you're just recreational lifting. So I go and find a spotter, and I have this big Nate here, big black Nate here, motivator. He photobombed my video, my coworker there. I set myself up. I have him say I'm going to do 1 repetition. I want to see what that feels like, and I go, boom. Get it. Feels freaking awesome. First time I hit 275, it's very satisfying. Felt really solid. Form was perfect. Even though you'll see other people have good form, when I define good form, oh wait a minute. do a double here. 1 and 2. I was going to do 3, but I just decided to cut my losses. So what I was saying when I talk about having good form, that's not having your shoulder blades move too much, because when your shoulder blades move too much, it's going to cause some protraction in the shoulders. Oh, here I do 225, and I try to rep out with 225. And I actually set my goal for this one, which felt pretty good. I do a total of 10 reps on this set. Is when you let the shoulder blades protract, and that's when they kind of roll forward, that really puts the shoulder and the humerus in a really bad position that can cause issues down the road, especially if you keep doing it over and over again. On occasion, it's not a big deal. Okay, so here I'm doing some overhead tricep work. I want to kind of work on strengthening my triceps. This is typically my weakest link with benching. And I kind of want to just work my guns. So you can see how I let my elbows kind of pass my shoulder as I go behind my head. And the reason for this is to get a bigger stretch in the tricep. The long head of the tricep. Of course, we're working the triceps, but the long head of the tricep is the one that's heavily neglected. And you got to make sure that you're working that tricep. It doesn't get the attention it needs, except with overhead pullover movements. And here I have, I think, about 95 pounds. Just trying to get a good extension. I do a set of 12. I like to do higher reps because my shoulders are weak, and I need to kind of work on that shoulder joint. Here I'm doing some rear delt flies with 25-pound dumbbells, trying to keep myself down, just trying to shape out my shoulder. I really think a lot of people need to do more rear delts because to balance their physique, to get that nice round cannonball look. And then I do some bicep curls, something I haven't done in quite a while. Do some bicep curls. Nothing wrong with having nice arms. And I like to do them just keeping my body solid, slowly lowering the weight, and staying strong. One thing I'll say about rear delt flies is that a lot of people have a tendency to not really tuck themselves down. So I purposely lower my body down lower as I lift my arms up. And I do this to make sure I stay down with each and every single rep. And same thing, and I kind of do the opposite for curls in a certain extent, or I should do the same thing with curls because people have a tendency to want to lean back when they curl, so I try to lean just a little bit forward as I curl it up, so that way my body meets my arms just a tiny bit to prevent myself from cheating.